Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and in today's video I thought it was about time I did sort of an overall update on where I am with the Crusade project. Obviously the First Crusade narrative campaign is now in full swing, and you'll probably have already seen some of these troops on the tabletop. However, if you follow my sort of social media posts or the Plastic Crack podcast, you have probably seen a few of these. But this is everything I've basically painted since the last update, and I thought it'd be quite good just to do a video where I brought it all together, explained what I've done, and what the next few parts of the project are as we're playing our campaign. So as you can see, I've completed a number of units, 2 cavalry units, some heavy infantry, some commanders, and a couple sort of scenic or special units. I am still working on some things as well because the campaign requires me to have even more cavalry than I already do. So I have got some things on the go, so I'll show you a little peek at the first base for some of them as well. Anyway, what I'll do, I'll go through all of these bit by bit. I will also leave up plenty of photos at the end as well. So let's get started. Okay, so here is the first unit. Now, these are from Reconquer Designs. Now, a lot of these miniatures from this update are from Reconquer Designs. Actually, thinking about it, all but one of the units are. I am a member of that Patreon, and you will have heard me go on about it before. But for my project and what I'm doing, it serves me really, really well, providing plenty of troop choices and new options with each month that I'm a member of it. So this was a release. I believe these were originally meant to be Andalusian, Slavic and Moorish mercenaries. I decided to just put them all into one big unit. I say big unit, just standard size unit for me, but put them all together and have them as a heavy infantry unit for my Saracen, my Seljuk, my Fatimid forces. We know that the Fatimids, the Fatimids in particular, but the Seljuks and more of the nations that the Crusaders fought against did employ mercenaries, and they did go from some of the sort of Slavic areas as well. So I just like this as a bit of a mix. I didn't use the little big men shield transfers to these ones. The designs the STL files rather, come with these nice shields, and I thought that was quite a unifying sort of look for the unit as well, imagining that this is like a mercenary band who have seen a lot of action, served many different sort of sultans and generals and caliphs, and it really just was a great deal of fun to work on. This sort of commander, he was released at the same time, and I just like putting commanders on horses in my infantry units, especially if they got a bit of a pose like this where he's looking off to the horizon. The poses as well afforded a great opportunity to do some fun things with, arrows. So these arrows, these are all, I have lots and lots of arrows from the Perry sprues, and these came in handy here, and a cartwheel that I had kicking around. I thought it looked like he was just sort of repelling a shot there with his shield, so I added that on there. And as always, just plenty of flags and standards as well. Just a great deal of detail and a great deal of fun to work on. It's quite hard just, finding things to just represent heavy infantry for the Saracens. So it's quite fun to have this sort of unit where it's got lots of different styles of armour in it. And remembering as well that the term Saracen is a sort of catch-all term that the Western armies were using for Turks, Kurds, Seljuks, Fatimids, Berbers, the list goes on. So there we are. So a great deal of fun to work on. They served all right in the first game. In our rules, they're just going in as a standard unit of heavy infantry with no frills about them at all. But hopefully in the coming games they'll earn a little bit back. Same basing scheme as always. But yeah, there we go. That's the first unit, some heavy infantry for the Saracens. Okay, so sticking with the theme of mercenaries. I really wanted to put some camel riders into my my Seljuk and my Berber forces, and Reconquer made these camel riders. And once I had a look at them, I didn't care how I shoehorned these into my army; they had to be in there. So they are a really nice set. The rider, the camel, and the reins come separate. The reins come separate. You say, why? Well, there's actually a little sort of hook that you on the saddle that you can put the rein over and then glue it to the front of the camel. Now, the camel set is actually these 4 in the middle here, and then there's a separate set which has the 2 camel casualties in. But I've put them all on the same base. Now, I'll talk about the bases in a minute. I'll have a look at the models first. Let's just start with this one. Really nice sculpts. Now I tried to again give the unit a bit of a unifying look by making all of the robes and tunics white or black with red sashes. Again, my sort of way of thinking about this is that, you know, that this is a unit that I've seen a lot, and it's just nice giving your units a bit of a unifying symbol. I've tried to do just some basic patterns on the saddle coverings. Nothing fancy, just enough to add a little bit of visual interest. And all of these have been Xenophor highlighted, and then as normal mix of contrast paints and standard paints, as I do normally. Now these did come with shields, little sort of bucklers that you could pop over the left arm that are holding the javelins, but I decided not to do that. I decided that I quite liked being able to see the hand gripping them. I mean, they're light cavalry anyway. The casualty, as you can see, there's really fantastic rearing pose when obviously I had to pin this a little bit as the guy's been thrown from the saddle. As you can see here, there is a splintered javelin or lance that has lodged itself in the camel's body. And as you can see here, this is sort of why the reins are separate. You have to sort of glue them in so they're flinging themselves outwards. This is the second base, and we'll start with the casualty here. You can see this time it's actually the chap on the back who's had a spear thrown at him and it's lodged in him. Now this part here is a wire spear that I added. There was a 3D printed one that you could put in, but you can see that little spike coming through him at the back. That's actually moulded, and I really like the way it's dragging the tunic with it. Really nice detail. As you can see here, I've just done exactly the same thing, which is just try and give them a little bit of interest. And they were just a great deal of fun to work on. Now, interestingly, I've never painted camels before. I've never had any reason to. So it actually came as a little bit of a surprise to me how big a camel actually is compared to a horse. This is just something that's never come up in my life, so I wasn't particularly sure. So originally I was going to base them on the same bases that I do my standard cavalry, which is these bases here, which are actually quite a bit smaller. Now they are the same depth but less wide. So if you see here, look, there we go, there's actually sort of a good couple of centimeters either side. Now basically I thought, well, I could put them on 3 bases and only have 2. Because I'm using these primarily for Hail Caesar, and Hail Caesar is based on frontage, the frontage of this is still constitutes a small unit, whereas everything else I just used these 2 small standard cavalry bases. This still counts as a small unit. You would just align the units. I didn't want to have to break them down. I thought it looked a little bit silly. And I don't mind having a deeper base for these purposes. In fact, it's something I might start employing a little bit more for sort of cavalry or war machines or things, so we'll see. But there we go, those are the camel riders. Now I haven't used these in the game yet. They're probably going to get an airing in the next one, so we'll see how they do. I'm predicting not great. I think they're going to be one of those units that looks kind of cool, but they're going to take a lot of fire. So there we go, there are the camel riders. Okay, let's switch to the other side for a change, and here we have some Byzantine Corsairs. Now these are from Fireforge Games. These are the plastic set, and I picked these up I think nearly a year ago, but I just had them and I was waiting to work on them. I knew what I wanted to do with them, I just hadn't had the time to do it. Now these were a pain to paint. Not because the models aren't nice, because there are a lot of different component parts I needed. I had to wait for shield transfers. I wanted to do all the individual pennants, and I was a little bit unsure on what I was going to do for the color scheme. But in the end, I settled on this, and I'm really pleased with them. Now, if you're watching the updates and you're watching the battle reports, you know I base my cavalry in 9s. Now, these come in a pack of 12, so I've got 3 left over, which are going to make their way onto a command base with the Byzantine general. Now, my current thinking for my army is that the Byzantines are going to be a sort of a small auxiliary force that are supplementing the main Norman army. However, after painting these and painting the previous plastic unit, I'm very tempted to make that a little bit bigger. That is not the same for the Varangian Guard, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I won't dwell on it here, but if you go and watch the last update, the project update, then you'll see what I mean with the resin Varangian Guard, which I didn't have a great time with. Now, I decided to kind of position these guys like they're actually just launching the charge and the lances are coming down, and I gave all but 2 of them lances or spears, and as you can see, there's a lot of movement in these characters here. So, where did I hit some problems? Well, the first problem came with the shields. Now, I like using shield transfers. I can do freehand, but it takes me a long time, and I wanted to keep things, you know, as straightforward as possible. Now, Fireforge don't have their own line of transfers. You can get molded shields from Fireforge, and there is a company whose names just completely just drop out of my head. I want to say it's War Games Designs, who no, it's Battle Flag. It's Battle Flag, who make transfers for the infantry, but no one made transfers for the cavalry, especially on this shield type. You get 2 types of shields with the coursers. So what I did was I went online and found some transfers that I liked, and I was a little bit unsure of how these were going to size up, because these are actually for gripping beast models. So when they arrived, you'll see the actual transfer is just the blue bit. That's all it is. It's just the blue bit. And so what I did was I put them onto the shields, and then I just kind of created this red border, and then outlined it in gold. And I was really pleased with the result. I think that came out really well, and just gives you an idea. Because I have this kind of idea, I don't know why, it's just that the Byzantine Empire being very opulent. So my main colours on here are purples and reds. I just think that that's a lot of fun to play with. Now, the pennants are all from Little Big Men Studios. These are mainly Byzantine pennants, though there are a couple of Crusader ones mixed in, which I thought just sort of looked quite nice that are in there. So plenty of crosses and chiros. Now, the barding, if that's what we're calling it, the armour on the horses, I decided just to kind of give it a nice coloured leather, highlight with gold and silver, use the chainmail, and just try and give some variation. These are a medium cavalry unit, so they're going to be a bit of a sort of a workhorse, forgive the term, unit. So there we are. Now, in the way I'm doing things, I seem to have the banner bearer as the sort of central character on, say, the middle base. So that's where I applied my main standard. So there we go. Again, contrast paints, because they make painting horses very easy. I love doing grey horses and sort of doing some dappling with the contrast paints. They are a great deal of fun. I don't enjoy painting horses all that much. If you watch the channel, I think one of the first things I ever did was basically moan about how much I hated painting horses and how contrast paints made it easier. I enjoy painting horses for the medieval period a lot more than I do the Napoleonic period. I don't know why, it's just something I think ingrained in me. Again, basing as I would standard, just popped on plenty of tufts from Tajima 1 Studios, and also just the odd bit of sort of wheel rut or shield. So never throw that stuff away. This is one of the cool things about 3D printing, is if you've got a little bit of space on your plate when you're printing something, you can just chuck stuff in there like barrels, shields, wheels for carts, all that kind of stuff. And I just have a little tub nearby. Where is it? There it is. So I just have this tub which has got all sorts of little bits and bobs in it, which I like sticking onto bases. So there we go. There's some Byzantine Cavalry, hopefully making a debut in one of the coming battles very, very soon. I'm kind of doing this in a bit of a chronological order, so we'll have a look at the command bases next. Now, one of those you'll have seen already in my How I Build a Command Base video, so I'll pop him out here anyway, but you can also see the other one I worked on as well. Okay, and here they are. Now, those of you who have been watching the channel, you'll recognise this one over here. This is the St. Ramos figure from Reconquered Designs that I repurposed as a sort of Raymond of Toulouse. And I made a video just showing sort of how I go about how I went about painting him and sort of selecting what I was going to do with him. So he's one of my, I think he might be my favourite Crusader command base at the moment. However, this guy here, who I'm using for my Saracens, he's very, very close behind in terms of which one's my favourite. Now, this model is actually, again, from Reconquer, but it's a Berber standard bearer. But I thought, well, if we give him a lance and just give him a pennant, he just looks like a general who's sort of, you know, doing a bit of a come on, follow me. And this chap here, who I've forgotten the name of the character, but he's actually a named Andalusian general. I thought he had a bit of a sort of a bodyguard look about him, especially in that pose he's in where he's drawing the sword. So I thought, well, this actually looks quite cool with this guy rearing at the front and then his bodyguard drawing his sword behind, doing a bit of a, oh, here we go kind of thing. I tried to put as much colour onto these guys as I could. I had a lot of fun, especially with this one. I basically spent quite a long time on the cape. I just wanted to do a lot of work on it, and then added all sorts of like designs and different colours onto him, so he's nice and bright on the battlefield. When you compare him to the sort of the rather drab, I say drab, but I would say more mundane looking Crusaders, I just wanted these guys to sort of stand out a lot more on the tabletop. So reds and blues for this chap, and then orange and deep reds, sort of blue coverings here. I did look at some sort of Seljuk designs and sort of had a go, a little bit of freehand. That's the amount of freehand I'm sort of comfortable doing. Or coats of arms, that would be about it. So yeah, there we go. So two command bases now. I've got 3 command bases now each, for the Seljuks and for the Crusaders. So plenty of options there. So I could build 3 divisions if I wanted to. There are still there's another one I wanted to do. There's a really cool priest who's sort of working everybody up for, I think he's meant to be a Berber, so I quite want him. And I did think about using a priest for the Crusaders on his own command base, but I'll show you what I've done with him. I have done a priest, but I'm sort of sorted him slightly differently. But anyway, these guys, great deal of fun, and hopefully they will command well. Well, hopefully this guy will command for me well, and this guy maybe not so much. Okay, so I'm going out of the order I painted them in now because I talked about the priest. So here we go. These are some Pilgrims that I've been working on. Now, I've really got to give a big shout out to the Instagram for One Brush to paint them all, because I completely took inspiration from his Instagram channel, which is very cool, and you should go and check it out. Basically, what they've done, they took the Reconquered Design slingers, and you can see there's still some slingers in here, but for half the models they repurposed them with hand weapons, melee weapons, to just sort of make them, because they really have a Pilgrim look about them. So I just did exactly the same thing. If you have a look here, you can see the Staff Slinger there, Slinger at the back there, and then this one was a Staff Slinger, but I just kind of cut the sling off so it looked like he just had a bit of a cudgel. I'll explain about the priest in a minute. And over here I replaced that one with a mace, that one with a sword, another sword at the front for this kind of Viking looking fellow, and then created a sort of mad chopping early billhook thing at the back. Just, I like the idea that these guys are just kind of picking up whatever they can find on their way, you know. I mean, they pillaged towns in Western Europe, and then as they got past past Italy and they got towards the Byzantines, they were still pillaging, so they'd have picked up all sorts. This is the Mounted Priest by Reconquer, and he's definitely got a very Peter the Hermit look about him, which is great. Now, I thought, oh, I could do a command base, but no, they didn't really pay a great deal of attention to Peter the Hermit by the time of the First Crusade. They kind of drag him along from place to place, because he's already been there and obviously eventually got beaten by Kilij Arslan. So what I decided was he would actually be in here and make up part of the unit as well. I should probably say as well, I added crosses where they've sewn crosses onto their sort of clothing. I've done that more for the Pilgrims than I have for actually my soldiers, and that's because mostly the heavy infantry are wearing chainmail, and there's just not a lot of cloth to show where they've done that. Something that's cool about these, there's so many companies that make sort of medieval civilians or medieval light infantry that this unit can just grow and grow and grow, and I think having a really haphazard looking villager led sort of Pilgrim unit would be really, really cool. And you could have the odd more heavily armored chap in there as well who's worked his way in there. I'm still trying to find a way to shoehorn the Tafers in, so I need to get a knight with a scythe at some point who can be my King Tafer. Anyway, there we go, some Pilgrims. Now in our games, the Pilgrims, you can't take them. The way they work is they essentially, if you've got a certain character, a certain general, he may, through his actions, start to attract these fanatical followers who feel that, you know, either he's good luck or he's particularly pious, and for better or worse, they attach themselves to his command. Now, they could go into combat and cause all sorts of havoc. More than likely, what's going to happen is they're going to run into an enemy unit, get beaten, and then mill around and not really know what to do. They probably won't, to be fair, if they win a combat, they probably won't really know what to do. But we thought that that would be a bit of fun, and it's something that did happen in the Crusade, where these sort of little sort of units of followers that weren't knights, that weren't sort of retained men, started popping up and following lords. So I've done one for the Crusaders. I need to do one for the Saracens as well. So there we go. Now, I saved one of my favourite things to last, so let me just move these off the turntable and I'll get that out. Okay, so the last one is a little bit more of a diorama. Now, again, Reconquer had done this set where I believe it's Alfonso is from the Reconquista is sneaking into a castle, and he'd sort of made this set of infiltrators. So you've got these sort of knights who are sort of wearing cloaks and they're going in with daggers. But I really like it that some of them are wearing sort of turbans. Some of them have got, you know, their hoods pulled up. I just think that looks really cool. And I remembered that in some of his earlier sets, Macross had sculpted a mantlet and a fire and all sorts of cool stuff. So everything you see on here, with the exception of the arrows, is from Reconquer Designs, just across many different months on the Patreon. Now, all of these models here are from the Infiltrator set, and what really kicked this all off was this guy here, who's looking around, and I thought, well, I need to find something for him to look around. I could do a tree, or I could do a you know, a bit of a building or something like that. But then I thought, well, what if these guys are actually trying to sneak into an enemy camp? There were a couple of times in the First Crusade, and I think if you look at like the Siege of Antioch, Bohemond led like a little infiltration into one of the towers to let them in, and so I quite like the idea of them sneaking off and sneaking into the enemy encampment, or maybe sneaking out while during the Siege of Antioch, the second Siege of Antioch, when the Crusaders were in there, sneaking out to have a look at the enemy positions. So you got this guy here who's sneaking around the mantlet. So again, just added a few peri arrows into there. There's a bit of weathering on there to show it's been for a while. I deliberately tried to build up the sand in front of it so you look like it's you know, been dug in a little bit. These bags I just thought were fun to add in here. There's another member of the infiltrators, sort of, you know, this guy's looking around, he's telling them to go for it, and it actually goes side by side. So you have, he's beckoning that chap there who's drawing the sword, while one of their companions has snuck up behind this guard and offed him with a swift knife to the neck. I tried to make it not too gruesome, but I thought you can't really have that going on without a little bit of blood, so there we have some of that in there. It's been a while since I've done any sort of blood or anything like that, so I went back to my old blood mix where I mix Blood Angels Red with Gore Grunter Fur and then pop in I let it dry so it's tacky, pop that in, and then a bit of gloss varnish. But yeah, so there we have this guard. He's part of the set. The campfire, that came from one of the earlier Reconquer months as well, so I just tried to make it look like maybe it's dawn, so there's some embers on the fire. He's been standing watch, but obviously not well enough. This chap is coming past and drawing his longsword as he gets ready to strike, and then this one's clearly seen somebody coming from over yonder and is getting ready, or he's seen another guard coming. So now, how am I going to use these in a game? Well, in a couple of ways. They could be a unit. Looks a little bit silly, but maybe they could be, I don't know, light infantry. How I actually see these is either as a scenic base for a objective. Maybe we can do a game where someone is actually attacking an encampment and this is placed nearby, and you can deploy a certain unit within a certain distance of this, because this is where your spies and your infiltrators have gotten to, so almost a bit like a jumping off point. I'll find a use for it. I just like doing it. I tried to put quite a few interesting bits on the base as well, just to make it appealing. Worst case, it'll just sit at the back in the game, and it will just sit there and look cool. But I hope you guys like it, because this is one that I took a great deal of pleasure in making. But as I say, this will have its uses in our games, and I like having that flexibility. Everything on the base again is from Tajima 1. Okay, so I will now give you a quick peek at the first base for the heavy cavalry unit, which I've actually got a couple of base. Well, I've nearly finished my second base, but I've got one base completely done, so I'll just show you that as well. And here it is. So this is the Victrix miniatures plastics. Now you can make those up as Arab horsemen as well, and that is what I have done here. I have used the helmets, basically have much more of that Saracen look about them. I've used them more as shields. I've given them sort of javelins as well as spears, and some of the other ones have got some quite nasty looking lances. Shield designs again, little big men, studio transfers, and it's just fun to work on. But as you can see, I've done quite a lot of cavalry and horses recently, but they are a fundamental part of the Crusade. So I've got this one base done. I've got another base which is finished. I've just got to dry brush some of the base, and I've got 3 more to do, and that will be a heavy cavalry unit for the Seljuks, which brings me up to 4 small units of light cavalry, 1 standard unit of heavy cavalry. I've got the Camels, and I've also got the other unit of light cavalry as well. So yeah, getting there. There's certainly more to do. These models really nice. What you'd expect from Victrix, but they do go well with the Reconquer design stuff. So if you were looking at mixing them together, then I think that would look cool. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Next up for the First Crusade, I've got to do a few more Byzantines and a couple more infantry units for my Seljuk Saracen forces, which is going to be a great deal of fun. I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching the channel. We've had quite a few new subscribers, so if this is your first update for the Crusade, welcome. There's a playlist I'll leave up at the end where you can go back and watch all of the First Crusade videos from the beginning when I started this project. I think it was about 18 months ago, 2 years ago now, and it's been a great deal of fun. So it's always just interesting to go back and have a look and see how things develop. Anyway, I hope you guys are all keeping well. As always, I'll keep up pictures at the end, so stick around for those, and I will see you guys in the next one. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye.